a word you hear that cleanses your mind. When your mind has been cleansed, your life is holy. If you are not taught who Christ is, you cannot live an effective Christian life. There is no other honor greater than that of sonship. Worldliness is the trap that enslaves men to the devil. Relationship with God is a gift, fellowship is a choice. The true expression of divine love is forgiveness to others. What you pursue is an expression of what you desire. Therefore he says, awake, you who sleep, arise from the dead, and Christ will give you light. See then that you walk circumspectly, not as fools, but as wise. Next verse. Redeeming the time, because the days are evil. Verse 17, everybody with a loud shout. Therefore, do not be unwise, but understand what the will of the Lord is. Understanding the will of God. Hallelujah. In this scripture, Apostle Paul begins by giving a wake-up call. He says, awake you that sleep, and Christ will give you light. You must understand that spiritual sleep is a state of existence that gives the devil access into your destiny. He says, while men slept, the enemy came and sowed tares. So every wickedness, every demonic attack, every demonic plan or agenda that finds expression in your life came when you were sleeping. You must understand that. So if there are things you see in your life that are not in agreement with the will of God for you, it is a sign that at a certain point of your walk with God, you fell into a state called spiritual sleep. So Apostle Paul says, wake up from sleep. It's not physical, it's spiritual. Arise from slumber. Wake up from sleep, and Christ will give you light. So every time you give yourself to that kind of state, the devil will attack you. Glory be to God. So there is a wake-up call from the Lord speaking to every Christian. Wake up. Wake up. You no longer pray. Wake up. You no longer fast. Wake up. You no longer read the Bible. Wake up. That's what he's saying there. Are you following me here? Worldliness is any activity that does not advance you. Or let me make it simple. Worldliness is any activity that does not bring pleasure to the Spirit of God. Anything you do that does not bring pleasure to God is what is called worldliness. So when a man becomes carnal or worldly, he has entered a dimension of his life where he begins to be an enemy of God. The Bible says the enemy of God is the carnal mind, a worldly person. A worldly man cannot receive the things of the Spirit. Hallelujah. So I pray for you that God will open your eye and give you grace in the name of Jesus Christ. So you went ahead and said, wake up from slumber, don't be a fool, be wise. He now says, do not be unwise, but understand what the will of the Lord is, which means true wisdom is the ability to understand the will of God and do it. A man who does not know God's will for his life is called foolish in the realm of the Spirit. So there are many Christians that are, please forgive me, it's not like an insult. Foolish here is in the sense of your ignorance of God's will for your life. You don't know why you are here. You don't know what you are called to do, what you are called to be. It's a state of foolishness. And in a state when a man is ignorant of God's will for his life, he is easily manipulated by wicked powers. Because you don't know what God wants. If I'm traveling, I don't know where I'm going to. The driver can tell me this is. He can stop me. If I'm going to Douala, I don't know Douala. The driver can stop in Boya and say, this is Boya. And I'll agree because I don't know. So the knowledge of God's will helps you pursue God relentlessly with all your heart, because you have the understanding of what He wants for you. So scripture says, don't be foolish. Try to know the will of God. Understand His will. Because without that aspect, you are lost in life. I've heard people say, leave me to live my life. In case you don't know, you don't have any life. When you are born of the flesh, your life belongs to Satan. When you are born of the Spirit, your life belongs to God. Bible says in 1 Corinthians 6 verse 19 to 20, He says, know you not that you don't own yourself, for you were bought with a price? So you are not here for yourself. The purpose of the creation of man was for the fulfillment of God's will on the earth realm. God is in the heavenly realm. God created man and assigned man to operate on the earth realm, so that through the operations of man, God's will can be done on earth. That is why we are on earth and God is in heaven. What is the will of God for your life? This might be the reason why you are actually so frustrated, because you have not yet come into the understanding of God's will for your life. This might be the reason of so much confusion. You just do whatever comes in your mind. But the truth is this: the only spiritual position that attracts the attention of God is the place of His will. When you are not in God's will, you don't attract His attention at all. You need to understand this now. If what I'm doing is not in agreement with the will of God, God is not involved at all. In fact, He does not even give me His attention. If you must attract God's attention on your life, you must walk in accordance of His will. If you don't know His will and do His will, His attention is not on you. That is why sometimes you look in church, some people are progressing, some are not progressing. It's not because God is unfair. When a Christian has found out God's will and walks in it, his life becomes a reflection of God's glory. How is this man doing? We're in the same church. The same pastor prays for us. But why is my own life like this? It may be that you don't know God's will for your life. And when you are not in the will of God, you can't see His glory. You can't see His power. There is a place where the glory of God abides. There is a place where the power of God can be found, but that place is the place of what? His will. So He now says, understand what the will of God is and do it. So I want to ask you before I proceed, do you know the will of God? What is God's will for your life? In Jeremiah chapter 1 from verse 5, He said, and God said to Jeremiah, before you were born, I knew you, and I ordained you to be a prophet. Before you were born. Before you were born. Which means before you came, God has ordained something you must fulfill on earth. The greatest reason for confusion amongst men is the ignorance of the purpose of their existence. You don't know why you are here. If you see me standing here today and doing the work of God, it's because at some point of my life I found out His will for me. It is easy. Listen to me. There is no failure. No devil can kill me. It's impossible. I will only live when God calls me at the time. Why? When you have found His will, you have captured His heart. And God becomes committed to you, committed to your cause, committed to your life. He commits Himself fully to you because God's desire is for His will to be done. He said, Jeremiah, listen to me. Where you were born, how you were born is not as important as why you were born. There is a reason for your birth. Have you found out that reason and to walk in it? You will keep being jealous of others. You keep looking at others and being envious when you find nothing brings rest to the life of a Christian like the full knowledge of God's purpose for him. You will rest. You will know what is your portion in God, and you will rest. The reason why you are, I don't know what to do and my life, is because you have not found his will. And this is where many Christians have a problem. We don't even care about finding God's will. So even today, people come to church not to know the will of God, but to use God to do their own will. So come and say, man of God, I'm getting married next week. Please, I want you to bless my marriage. They are not asking God if the man they want to marry is the will of God. They want to use God's blessing to fulfill their ambition. That's not how God operates. So there is all of God in his will. You must understand that we are born to do the will of God. In Psalm chapter 40 verse 7 to 8, he said, here am I have come to do your will, not my will, your will. The truth is this: any teaching that does not bring you into the understanding of the knowledge of, in the understanding of God's will for you, cannot help you. It is important you know, why are you here? What does God expect from you, and what are you doing? Many times in my life, I have put services and God canceled them. I called somebody, I said, somebody called me for a crusade, and I said, yes, I'm coming. And he printed over 5,000 flyers, put it in the whole town. There were flyers and posters everywhere. Spent money. And 3 days to the program, I went to pray. And the Lord asked me, which program? And I said to myself, what does it mean of which program? I said, Lord, the program in the church. And I heard, I am not aware. I couldn't pray again. I'm asking your Father, as I'm going for this crusade, heal the sick. And the Lord asked me, which crusade? I said, now Pastor Dana, they replied, I am not aware. And that's how God talks. You insist he's not talking anything again. I said, sorry sir, sorry. I had to imagine the shame of calling a man. The man vexed with me, so they, you know, say me to be tight from my side. It's not because I was wicked, it was not pride. I accepted a program without seeking God's will for my life. And God said, young man, this thing you are trying to do, this is where when people go out of God's will, they encounter death untimely. Jonah almost died because he departed from the will of God. The Lord said, go to Nineveh and preach. Jonah said, I'm going to Tarshish. On the road, accident. Why? Because he was moving in a direction contrary to God's will for him. So you must understand that you are born to do his will. Every creature of God is a strategy by God to fulfill his purpose on earth. Even animals are here to do the will of God. So what are you doing? Are you following your own way? Are you doing the things you like? You need to really pray. What is the will of God? I give you 3 things. Number 1, the will of God is the plan of God. Jeremiah 29 verse 10. I know the thoughts I think towards you, or I know the plan I think towards you, plans to give you an expected end. Number 1, the will of God is the plan of God. What God has planned concerning your existence is his will for you. And there is a planning before a walking. So the will of God is what? The plan of God. So when you are saying you must search out God's will, means you must understand God's plan for your existence. For example, this is a new month. In this month, God has a plan. God did not bring the plant in this month. The plan has been there ever since, but the plan was ordained by God to find expression in a particular time. So what is the will of God? Number 1, the plan of God. So when he says, I know the thoughts I think towards you, thoughts to give you, another version say, I know the plan I have for you, to give you an expected end. Number 2, the will of God is the purpose of God. Ephesians chapter 1 verse 11. He says, God that works everything according to the purpose of his will. So the will of God is his purpose. Purpose means reason. It is the purpose of God. This is why God is doing what he's doing. Are you following me now? So the will of God is his purpose. So when I'm saying that fulfill God's purpose, I'm saying fulfill God's will. Every season has a purpose that you must understand in order to overcome. If God brings you in a season where there is no money in your life, it has a purpose. Now, if you are so focused on what you are going through, you may actually miss understanding God's will in that time. If you are not married today, there is a purpose. So when Satan wants to frustrate Christians, he manipulates them to be more focused on themselves than on God. So at the end, if I'm going through some, for example, in John chapter 11 from verse 1 to 4, Mary said, Jesus, the one whom you love is sick. Speaking of Lazarus. Then Jesus said, it's not unto death, it's for the glory of God. While you are looking at sickness, God has purposed his glory to be seen there. So no matter how you pray and cry, you will still be sick. Because if God has ordained that it is only through your affliction that he will reveal his glory, I'm sorry, you will be afflicted. There's nothing you will do. If God has ordained that only through your sacrifice will his glory be revealed in your life, no matter how you pray and fast, you will suffer. Because God is concerned about his purpose, his will. So when you enter a season of life, don't focus on the activity, focus on the reason of the season. Why is this happening? That's the will of God. And this helps you have understanding of things, so that when something happens, you don't begin to panic, because you know that what I'm going through is not nice, but there must be something God wants to do through this thing. It gives you rest. It is the understanding of the will of God that gives a Christian rest in the midst of trial and temptation. When you know God's will for your life, no matter how the storm is raging, you cannot be afraid, because you know his will. In Mark chapter 4, Jesus said, let us go cross over to the other side. He didn't say let us cross under, let us cross over to the other side. And while they are still on the way, something happens. There is a storm that comes, and the storm begins to hit the boat and is threatening. And Jesus is sleeping. What can make a man sleep in the midst of a storm? It's not just courage, it is the knowledge of the will of God. That they say, oh, brakes have failed. He said, driver, relax, we cannot die here. There is no fear in that realm, because you know what he wants. So Peter was panicking, and Peter went left and right and began to cry, sir, don't you care if you perish? Imagine Jesus was, sleeping, not like he was sleeping practically. So Peter went to Jesus, wake up, we are dying. Oh, he asked him first question, why are you so afraid? Question I want to ask is, why is Jesus not afraid? He knows his will. A time came, some people pick up stone to kill Jesus. He looked at them. He did not even pray, our Father. No. He said, look at them, and passed and left. He says, my time has not come. Bomb cannot kill me. Charm can't kill me. Gun can't kill me. When you don't know your time is when the devil can use any time for it to become your time. He said, I can't die here. Now, this is the greatest reason for visions and prophecy. When God sees that the devil is about to bring you a trouble, God moves ahead to reveal a prophecy or a vision. Now, if you saw yourself in a vision in America, there is no way you would die in accident in Kumba. So when the devil brings that attack, you say, but wait, did I not see myself? I can't die here. So there are times you get attacked and you get sick, and you feel like, hey, you would die. You say, but wait, did I not see a dream? Or did I not receive a prophecy that I will travel? Have I traveled? No, I can't die. You see, your confidence in the midst of trial is sponsored by your knowledge of the will and the purpose of God. I know. So they say that, do your worst, nothing will happen to me. You don't talk like that by chance. You speak like that only when you have come to the place of understanding the will of God. Are you with me now, child of God? Lift your hand, say, Lord, open my heart to know your will. I tell you the truth, even when you lose your human strength, when you remember God's will. Before you got married, the man of God prophesied and said, thus say the Lord, this marriage will be an example of his glory. No matter how you have problem with your husband, that marriage cannot be broken. It can only be broken if you get afraid, because what you fear will come. So but when trouble comes, you say, but wait, the man of God prophesied about this marriage. He said, Satan, no matter what you bring with my husband, will be well. So what gives you confidence in the midst of trial is not the strength of the flesh, but your knowledge of his will. I know that somehow, whether you do what, it will work around for my good. I don't know how it will happen, but I know it will happen because I have known his will. So others are saying, look at my life, hey, I have nothing to eat. You don't talk like that. A Christian who has come into the knowledge of the will of God never gives himself to complain despite trials. You don't complain because you know that what you are going through is for a while. People who complain today are those who cannot see the future. Their focus is limited to what is happening now. But when a man can see beyond, he says, don't worry, everything will be okay. When we say it is well, it's not because things are looking well now, because we have traveled to the realms of the future and we have seen that way. Say, listen to me. If I see myself in a crusade in Boya in 2023, how can I die in 2022? Who will go for that crusade? So no matter what Satan brings to me now, I say, oh God, you're wasting your time. So when I know that will, so it's not the strength of my flesh, my confidence. The confidence of a Christian in the midst of trial is not in the strength of his flesh, but in his knowledge of the will of God. I don't know how it will happen, but I know that this thing will be end so. This is why you have to write down your dreams, because in the day of battle, your greatest weapon is the prophecy of your life. So Paul said, Timothy, by the prophecies I gave you, fight the good fight. So prophecy is a weapon for spiritual warfare. Now God told me, landlord comes to you, you have not paid rent, quit notice, get out of the house, you have lost your job, and while you are walking and crying, you remember the man of God told you, the Lord says he will make you a millionaire, your family. In the midst of poverty, you start celebrating. Now those who walk by the eyes of the flesh, they see no reason for celebration in poverty. But when you walk by the eyes of the spirit, in the midst of poverty, you begin dancing. You are dancing because you know that this is for a while. But when you can't see more than what you are going through, what you are going through can become where you will end. Number 3, the will of God is the intention of God. Let's see James chapter 5 verse 11. I'd like us to read this one because something I want to explain there. Indeed, we count them blessed who endure. You have heard of the perseverance of Job and seen the end. The end what? Intended. Which means before Job entered crisis, God had an intention. So if Job is focused on his crisis, he will miss God's intention. That is his will. When God, listen to me, I don't know who deceive you. One of the worst mistakes that Christians have made is to think that the will of God has no pain. It can be painful and be his will. When you begin to interpret pain as a sign that is not his will, you will be deceived very soon. Everything Job went through was the will of God, but there was pain. Stop thinking God's will does not have pain. It was the will of God for Jesus to die on the cross. Was there no pain there? He cried, Eloi, Eloi, lama sabachthani. He was in pain. It was the will of God. So some of us now, we are going through something in life, But we are deceived to think that it's not the will of God by reason of the pain in it. It can be painful and be his will. In fact, matter of fact, one of the greatest way to test the will of God is if it demands your sacrifice. If it does not demand your sacrifice, it's not his will. Hey, Pastor, I want to thank God. I was not even praying for your husband. A man came to marry me. You will soon cry. Never see that as a testimony. The will of God is not easy at all. That's why when you are emotional, you can't fulfill it. If God says, I have an intention. You may not understand my intention, but I have an intention. And let me tell you the truth. Man has an expected end. God has an intended end. Whenever the expected end of man fails, the intended end of the Lord will prevail. So things may not be going as you plan, but they are going as God planned. So you be quiet. By this age, I'm not yet married. God say, relax. That's how I planned it. Your marriage is coming soon. At 75, Abraham, there is no child. It's not Satan. Bible says, and the Lord closed Sarah's womb. Don't you read there that it is the Lord that closed Sarah's womb? Why would the Lord shut her womb? Who closed the womb of Hannah? God, not Satan. God. How do you now pray to a God that have closed your womb? He closes your womb. Whether you cry, he will not open it. He's waiting for a time. So you are praying, I don't know why is my life like this? God says, wipe your tears. Keep your tears because there's much crying on the road. No, you think no, there will be no pain. Because God tell you, you will start church, rain will come and break it. You start again, trouble comes. Start again, landlord come and drive you. Say, you are in the will of God with all these crises. So you think that if you marry according to God's will, you will not quarrel. You can marry and you are in God's will and they are quarreling every day. Stop thinking that pain means God is not involved. It's not so. It can be his will and be painful. Do you think it was? Do you know how Abraham felt? 100 years, 99 years, no child with his wife. And it's God's will. If you are emotional, you think God is wicked. But the will of God is expressed in the realm of men by the ordinance of time and season. When you plant a tree, no matter how you pray, the tree will not grow. The tree needs time. Number two, every tree bears fruit according to its time and season. And when the time comes, you don't pray for it, it bears fruit. So even if you water your tree, fruits will not come. For example, we know like where we are now. They say, okay, this is the season of plum. Why is there no plum in February? It's not because there is no plum tree. It's because plum trees are waiting for their time to bear. So if you come to February and you are praying on the plum tree says, you are wasting your time. I can't bear. It's not time. So there are things in your life you are trying to achieve. The reason why they cannot come forth is because you are trying to get something tomorrow, today. And God says, it can't happen. Because me, I know go suffer. Who deceive you? Give me 1 Peter 5 verse 10. Who deceived you? I will not suffer. If you say I will not suffer, it's not Christianity. We are called to partake of the sufferings of Christ. But may the God of all grace, who called you to his eternal glory by Christ Jesus, after you have, what will he do now? Perfect, establish, strengthen, and settle you. After you have suffered. Me, I know go suffer. If you don't suffer, you will not be perfected. Are you following me now? Those who stand here and testify are those who went through a test. To me, you are only a general in the kingdom of God by a function of the stars you had for God. Not stars, car. So you can't tell me you are a general and I look at your body is smooth. You are not a general. If you are a scar, you will open your back. I will see where they whip you. Are you following me here? So Paul said, let no one touch me, for I bear on my body the marks of the Lord Jesus. So yours, listen to me, your scars are the testimony of the battles you fought with God and overcame. Don't be ashamed of them. That day you came back to church and your father slapped you is very good. Very, very good. Because a time will come that is a testimony that you have been persecuted for the name of the Lord. Blessed are those who are persecuted for my name's sake, for theirs is what? You want to go to heaven, you don't want to be persecuted. As I used to say, one of the most beautiful things on a wife is stretch marks. Because stretch mark is a testimony that this woman has sacrificed herself to carry your baby. That's why if a woman has stretch marks by birth, you should never be ashamed of it. If your husband, ask your husband to show you his own sacrifice. When he married you, you had no stretch marks. He now impregnated you. This is one of the most beautiful things on a wife, I repeat, is not her face, it's stretch marks. You can't understand now to the day you enter. Listen to me. When your wife get pregnant, I say this before God, and you go where there is labor room, listen to me, even if you are the chief apostle, prophetic doctor, you go fear. You will stand there and hear, this woman just died. I mean, I was in the hospital, you just hear, a woman was given her, she died. I say, A woman was given her, the child died. Blood has come and she has collapsed. I just said, I'm going to cancel it. There was nobody to cancel. I came to cancel myself. I said, I'm going to church. I want to do counseling. Nobody is looking for me. I just wanted to cancel, like, to speak to myself. My point is this: God's will can carry pain. That's what I'm trying to explain. It's the will of God that you should give birth to a child. It does not mean you will take away labor pain. So labor pain is not demonic attack. It is a sign that God's will is about to be done. So how do you interpret things that happen to your life? Glory be to God. So let's move ahead now. So I've given you 3 things about His will: the plan of God, the purpose of God, the intention of God. All right. Let me give you 3 things the way God relates with His will. Number 1, God walks according to His will. Ephesians 1 verse 11. Whatever God does is in accordance to His will, not to your ambition. God does not walk according to your will. Anywhere you see a man resisting the authority of God, the will of God cannot find expression in his life. God walks according to what? His will. Ephesians 1 verse 11. So if I want to know what God will do, I need to know His will. Because the hand of God always follows the direction of the will of God. When God's will moves ahead, His power follows behind. So God's power will be found where God's will is. If God's will is not there, His power can't be there. For example, now you heard the sister testify now. She's healed of hepatitis B. Now the issue is this: I didn't even see her. She told me I prayed on phone. I didn't say be healed. I say you are healed. But now, since I know that when the Lord Jesus appeared to me, He said to me, go and heal the sick, His power must follow when I pray for the sick. So I will not pray and panic, because when I'm praying for the sick, I am in the will of God. That is why I organize prayer line. Not every pastor should organize prayer line. I know that I'm in His will. Sometimes we do prayer line here, we have 1,000 people. And you hear all kinds of testimony. It's not by my strength. It is easy to operate in a realm of exploits when you have discovered God's will for you. You see, listen to me. Let me say this to you. I watched it's something like a documentary of a very big artist in America that plays violin. You know violin is an instrument of praise. And he went to a train station and began to play there. And while he was playing, he put a basket in front, and people put $1, $2, $3 for him. Now the next day, the man had a concert in another city and the entrance for the concert is $100, 50,000 francs. When he went and was playing in the train station, they gave him $1. When he went to the place of knowledge of will, he had $100. In other words, you are not actually useless. You are only in the wrong place. That's why it looks as if it's more like this. I'm telling you the truth. When you enter God's will, you are surprised the way things begin to work. Because that is where his power is. A man of God can be in Kumba and he looks as if God didn't call him. Then he moves and go to Boya. You see him having people say, but he has not taken charm. He has found God's will. I know a man of God that was in a city. Nothing was moving. And God said to him, go to your village. The man cried, my village? If I'm suffering in town, village will be better. He went to his village, now with the biggest church. I'm speaking about Apostle John Suleiman, my father in the Lord. He was in Lagos, praying for a church, wanting to hear, go to Abuja. In fact, in the place where he was, about 100 millionaires came together to sponsor a church he will start. They say, anywhere you start, we buy land, we build for you. So he went and prayed, and God said, go to your village. He said, no, this voice is the voice of my father's house. It's not God. He went and prayed the next day. God said, go to your village. He said, this power is the power of the marine kingdom. How do you know it's God's will? Is when it contradicts your ambition. So he now went. Guess what? He went to his village. Listen, Auchi is like Kumba, in case you don't know. He says it's not being like a town. He says it's village like Kumba. And he went there. If you go to the church he has built, he doesn't have a church, he has a city. Inside the church, they use taxi. Inside church, there are cars that will take you from this place to another place. What kind of place is that? But when he went to Auchi and God showed him the place, as he went there, it was a forest. He went there to pray. He saw, I think, 8 owls there. He began service under that tree the next day with about 6 people. Now, he has traveled almost all nations of the world from that village. He has 3 private jets from that village. His church there, 60,000 seaters church in that village, and people leave the whole world to come there. A city on a hill cannot be. It doesn't matter where they keep you. The hill there is not physical location, it's the will of God. Once you have found God's will, you cannot be hidden. Put him in a hole, the light will attract men. So you are not useless. The only issue is that you are in the place where God's will is not there. So you look useless and weak. Listen to, that's why I said to you that be careful. Somebody can fail economics and pass literature. So according to economics teacher, he's a failure. But according to literature teacher, he's a success. So that's why you don't define yourself by the opinions of men. Because if I'm called to work in literature, I'll fail mathematics. That you cannot define yourself by even your failures, because you may be failed because you were in the wrong place, not because you were the wrong person. You were the right person in a wrong business. So you may do cocoa business and fail, and do a goosey and succeed. Are you following me at all? So the main issue is to find God's will and stay there. Number 2, God gives according to his will. Corinthians 12 verse 11. He says, and the Holy Spirit has given us gifts according to his will. But one and the same Spirit worketh all these things, distributing to each one individually as he wills. Are you seeing that? So if you are praying for 50 billion, if it's not the will of God, God will not give you. Are you understanding now? So God gives according to his will. So if I want to know what God will give me, I will seek his will for my life. It may look painful, but that's the truth. Listen, there is nothing you can do. I usually just say, move. You cannot move the hand of God. Who gave you that kind of power? Even if you like, you sell all your cars, sell all your land, and take the money and give to prophet. God will not give you what is not his will. Listen, God cannot be bribed and say, okay, prophet, this is my sacrifice. Prophet will take it and chop it. And God will do nothing. For God to move is not according to what you do, it's according to his will. Are you with me now? Do you understand that part? So God gives according to his will. Number 3, God hears according to his will. Version 5:14. If we pray according to his will, we know that he hears us. So if I need God to hear me, I must not just check my prayer point, I must make sure I am praying in agreement with the will of God. I don't know how I can explain this. There is a possibility that you can be praying for something which is good in the eyes of men, and God says, I will not give it to you. He doesn't even hear you. Because for God to hear, it must be his will. For God to listen to you, it must be his will. For example, if I come and say, Lord, in the name of Jesus Christ, I'm going to service now, open my eyes to prophesy, you will hear me, because when he called me, he said to me, you must prophesy again about many people, nation, languages, or king. That's why I don't ask you, can I prophesy? I don't need your opinion. I will prophesy. Your opinion does not matter in this thing. Can I prophesy? Why am I asking you? Do you send me? He sent me. If God commands me to prophesy, I don't need your permission to prophesy, because I know his will. But another man of God can pray, Lord, in this service, open my eye to see, because I need here, because God wants him to be a teacher. So the way God listens to our prayer is when we can find his will and pray according to that will. That is when he hears us. Man of God, I've been praying. I don't know why I'm praying, but God is not hearing me. James 4:3. Because you are not praying according to his will. You are praying according to your ambition, according to your desires. You ask and do not receive. Why? Because you ask and miss. It means where you have missed it is that what you are asking is not the will of God, or the reason why you are asking it is not to fulfill his will. So because I cannot hear you. Number 4, God equips to man to do his will. Let's see Hebrews 13:21. Now this is very powerful, because it will show you why we are different in the way God structures us. Can we read together? God make you complete in every good work. Why? To do his will. Now look at this. For example, 4 of you, 3 of you come. These are 3 Christians, right? God comes to her. All of them are praying. God comes and make her, she can prophesy. God comes to you, make you can heal the sick. God comes, make you should prosper in business. They are serving the same God, but the equipment they have is in function of his will. So if this one says start praying to prophesy, your spiritual structure will not accommodate it, because you were not made for it. So when God begins to equip a person, he structures you to fulfill his will. That's why some people are born and they don't need to be trained. They can play football. From birth, they call it talent. It's an equipment for the will of God. Listen to me. Even when I was not a Christian, 2000, you can sit down, before I even received Christ, when I was young, I was seeing, and they call it 4-eye. They wanted to take me to somewhere to close the 4-eye. We arrived there. The man said I'm too strong, that he should go back with me. They went to that, they want to close the eye. We arrived there, the man looked at me and said, no, I'm too strong, I should go back. Now, anytime something got missing in the house, they will call for me. I will not even pray. I'll just come. I will not follow a Christian. I'll just come and stand and say, it's under the bed. I will see a child. It came to a point which even my uncles and aunts and relatives, if money gets missing in their house, they pay taxi, come to my house, take me to their house and say, find the money, give me. I'm saying truth. And I didn't know that it was because I'm called to be a prophet. I'll just stand and say, the money for under bed. Now, it now came to a point, I don't need to go. If they just call my mother, that's what is missing, I'll say, tell him to look for it under the bed. I didn't know that it was. So from birth, I had been equipped. So in every creature, your spiritual structure and equipment is a function of God's will for you. So don't be jealous if this man prophesies and you don't prophesy. You are simply jealous because you have not found your own structure and advantage. That's all. That's all. There is no man of God anywhere that can do anything and not be jealous. No. Do your own, I'll do my own. In a football field, someone is goalkeeper, someone is playing in front. When goalkeeper say, I don't need to play another score goal, as he leave people to go and score goal, they'll go and score the team. So the team only wins when every player understands his relevance by staying in his position. So in the kingdom of God, which is a team, each man, listen to me. Somebody got sick. And I prayed, it wasn't good. I took my phone. I called Apostle John Chi. I said, I'm sending somebody to you. The person went there. They prayed for him. He was healed. It's not that I'm not anointed. You should know the area where people have been given strength by God. One time I had a daughter, he had a sister in church who was believing God for a child for about 9 years. I have prayed all kind of prayer. Anointed the stomach. So one day I remained. I was watching TV and I watched a man of God called Prophet Merrick. And I saw people testifying. I was 30 years barren, I'm now pregnant. I saw like 10 testimony. I said, this man get it, you know. I call her, I said, pass, go. And then when I told her, I gave her a chance, I said, go there for prayer. She went there, they prayed for her. Guess what? That same month, she got pregnant. If I be used jealousy, he said, no, I'm going to pray for you. She will not be pregnant till today. So God has given different strength to men. When you can be humble, you take advantage of what God has given your brother that he has not given you. Because there's something you have that I don't have. There's something I have that you don't have. Also, why are we being jealous? Remember, for poor man go score now team not win. If the attacker scores, who wins the cup? The player or the team? They give medal to every player. The only people who don't receive medal are the supporters. So never be a supporter in this kingdom. You must be a player. Those who are outside, because they are not active. God does not reward presence. He rewards participation. No matter how you support your country football team, when they win a match, it's to them they give medal. In fact, they don't even know that you were in the field. Though you shouted, oh! Some people get angry in their house and break their TV. You're unwise. Glory be to God. So, let me give God's will in relation to man. I've given it in relation to God, not so. Number one, the will of God is what brings fulfillment to man. John chapter 4 and verse 34. Jesus said, my meat is to do the will of he who sent me. It is the will of God that brings fulfillment to a Christian. If you see a Christian happy in what does not make God happy, he has become carnal. When I come to church, for example, if I come to church today and the Lord said to me, today heal the sick, no matter how I prophesy, if nobody was healed after service, I'm not happy. Why? God's will has not been done. My pleasure is not in manifestation. My pleasure is in doing his will. So it's not about getting married. It's getting married to fulfill the will of God. One time we put a healing service here and we prepared massively. I think you remember. It was about 3 days today. God said that there's no healing service. When was it last year? We came to us saying there's no, and people have registered. Remember? People registered. More than 800. God said there's no healing service. That's today. We had to send them on Sunday. But guess what? I was happy. Because it's not about coming to show that you are anointed. It's about being in the will of God. So that's why you have satisfaction when you do his will. So a Christian does not derive his joy by the possession of worldly things, but by the fulfillment of the will of God. See, my life, I don't even have money. Forget about money. If you are doing the will of God, that should make you happy. I came and sang in church, they did not pay me. Forget about they did not pay you. By your singing in church, you did God's will. Your rewarder is God, not man. This is what he said. People say, no, I've been serving here, they have not paid me. It's not about they have not paid you. Are you in the will of God? Yes, stay there. Because when God comes to reward you, he rewards with arrears. I will restore all the years. So your pleasure must be in the fulfillment of the will of God and not your ambition. Are you with me? Number 2. It is the fulfillment of the will of God that glorifies God in the life of a Christian. John 13:31 and 14:31. Jesus said, now is the hour and the Father will be glorified. How? By his sacrifice. If you want God to be glorified in your life, you must do his will. Listen, you can't do what you like and come and say, Father, I give you the glory. God does not take glory for what is not in accordance to his will. Do you know, the Bible says that in Numbers chapter 20, Moses came to God and said, the people are thirsty, and God said, go and speak to the rock, water will come out. Moses went and hit the rock, water came out, but God judged him. Because God was saying, this is not my will. So God does not judge his will by results, but by obedience to method. So it is possible to be a billionaire and God does not know you at all. Remember Genesis 22 verse 1, God said to Abraham, take your son, your only son Isaac. But we all know that he has 2 sons, Ishmael and Isaac. Why does God say take your only son Isaac? What about Ishmael? Because Ishmael is the son that Abraham had by the decision of his wife. Isaac came by the revelation of God. I know a man of God who began a church in a city and had over 3,000 people. And one day, a prophet came to town and came to the church and said, thus saith the Lord, I am not in this place. Yeah. Over 3,000 people. They are built. And the man is prophesying, healing the sick. And the man said, I am not in this place. The prophet argued, said, that's fake prophecy. And he went and prayed, and God said to him, I am not in that place. So if you are judging God's will because you have money, you can have money in a wrong way. So just forget about that. Many rich people today are not in the will of God. But if you want God to be glorified in your life and the things you have, then it is important you understand the relevance of his will. Are you following me now? That it must be according to the will of God. Number 3. Doing the will of God is the participation of man in advancing the kingdom of God. Doing the will of God is the participation of man in advancing the kingdom of God. In Matthew 26 verse 39 to 42, Jesus prayed and said, I don't want to die. But if it's your will that I should die for your kingdom to come, I will die. This is why we have problem. God tells you, pray every day at 11. You say, I am tired. This is why Satan entered your family and killed somebody. Because if you were praying, his kingdom will have come over your family. Many things which have happened, listen to me, anywhere Satan finds expression is a sign that somebody has neglected God's will. God will tell you as a wife, take 7 days, pray for your husband 1 hour. You go and pray 30 minutes. Lord, protect my husband, protect my husband. You want to hear, hey, accident. Be careful. Don't take God's will lightly. The consequences are too heavy. So doing God's will is the participation of man in advancing the kingdom of God. This is how you participate. God wants something to happen to your family. He wants his name to be glorified. God wants to put an end to untimely death in your family. He wants to put an end to marital crisis, disappointment. But he needs you to fast 3 days every month for 1 year. Can you do it? This is why I said it is sacrificial. That is why the first key to do the will of God is to surrender. Jesus said, Father, if it is possible, let this cup pass away. Listen, nevertheless, not my will, your will. What is that? Surrender. You are still fighting. What do you do if God tells you go back to the village and you are making it in town? What do you do? And And you now say, no, I cannot go. You stay in town 2-3 days, bam, accident, you die. Because God has left that place. What do you do when you are planning to get married and God come and tell you this is not your husband, and you truly love that guy, and you are fully inside everything? Will you have the strength to come out? If you don't surrender to God, you will not receive power to do his will. There must come a time in your life. What do you do if God tells you empty your account and give to church? You will bind that voice. If your Momo account is 2,000, you say, Lord, I'm doing it now. I'm talking about account of 100 million. You say, this is the voice of my father's house. This is an altar. Genesis 22, God says, Abraham, yeah man, yes, take your son, your only son, and go and kill him. It's easy for you to read and be quiet. Imagine it was you. There was a time the Lord said to me, I should not eat meat. I spent 3 years without eating meat. You think I don't like meat? Why, Lord? There is a battle you need to fight in the spirit. Don't eat meat. If you eat meat, the demons will control you. I like meat too. I've never drank alcohol. I can't taste it. Because in my calling, listen to me, I told you that God came to me, I told you now, and said, I'm giving you a gift of prophecy, but the only law is never be immoral. You know, understand the thing. There's nothing like I want to sleep. There's no I want to sleep with another woman. It should not. Now die there for me. That one I die. Another pastor can do it and survive. I can't do it and survive. Because according to God's structuring of my destiny, that is in. They say, Samson, don't drink wine. Don't shave your hair. When he shaved his hair, what happened? Who asked you now? For shave hair and sin. So if God speaks to you, as there are many of you here, women, God will tell you no longer wear earring. You imagine how you will no more be a slave queen. What if God come and tell you from today, let mesh not touch your head again? Not you see somebody say Jesus. I say mesh, not Jesus. God will come and tell you, say from now. Or God come and tell you, my daughter, yes Lord, from now, never put a jewelry on your body. No chain, no earring, no no, imagine yourself, we never put in mesh to leave this earth. That's the will of God. And when you obey what looks seemingly hard, through that, the glory is found. I tell you the truth. If God has never given you an instruction, God is not yet interested in using you. Just know this today. When it's time for God to use you, God will tell you, you want me to use you? Yes, Lord. Give me your car. I had my one car that time, my one car. I was in service. I had, give her your car. I said, it cannot be God. I have only one car. What is give her your car? Brethren, I'm talking about me, not at this level. I gave her the car. For 1 year, I was taking bike to church. When service closed, I would hold my wife's hand, children, we trek home. I mean this, I'm not talking about, now at this level. But guess what? Every time we trek home, there was a happiness. But a time will come in my life, you come to my house and see Tenika say, I'm gonna go to motor and so. You don't know when I gave them my car. So you'll be talking like a fool, not knowing the sacrifice I've done for God's kingdom to advance. What if God tells you, don't date any man for 10 years? You say, Lord, I'm getting old. He said, don't date any man. It happens. Be laughing. One day God will tell you resign. And then your eye will cry, so tears will go down. Resign. You say, resign from your job and serve me. You don't do it, but this, if your own God only come to give you gifts, you are still in nursing school in the kingdom of God. When you mature, God does not give you, He takes from you. The only way for me to give you is to not take. For example, I have children in my house. My little baby is about 1 year old. Can I tell her to dry clean the house? No. When she wakes up in the morning, first thing I think is to give her food. Let my other son try it. I'm hungry. Pass, go dry clean floor. because he has grown. He has arrived the age where, from him, dry clean floor. He does not dry clean floor to eat, but he will dry clean floor before he eats. I don't care how he interprets it, he will do it. What has God demanded from you and you are fighting? So God will tell you, sometimes you will hear, you feel it in your heart. Delete WhatsApp from your phone. You say, but how will I be in contact? Delete it. Lose contact with men to have a better contact with God. Listen, you don't know. God will tell you in service and preaching, God will tell you, give your phone as a seed. You remove iPhone 13, say, this cannot be God. You remember how you bought it? God, you hear again, put it at the altar. That's when you come with a phone and stand like this and look at the altar. You rub it on the altar, you hold it again. There was a time I was asked to fast for 100 days. And I eat only after 7 days, which means I fast. On the 7th day, I eat food, I drink water. 7 days again, dry. You are talking, you don't know this God. You want to do, I want to walk with you. I'll give me the power to do your will. This thing you are singing, do you know what? Well, Lord, forgive them, they don't know what they are saying. Do you know what you are saying? 100 days. There was a time I had all night for 1 year. This year is the first time I've slept in the house for more than 10 days. My wife said, Chai. She will go and say, hey, you touch me on the bed. Say, aye. Now, no, I'm married. It's not because I don't love my wife. God said to me, stand in your place of prayer and keep watch. Let evil not enter Kumba. We don't want bloodshed in this town. It's not by talking. There's something we must do in the spirit. We don't want people dying and bombs and story like that in this town. It's not just say it will not happen. It's not talk. God, sometimes God asked me to lie down. I'm on every night 12 hours. You need a wukoko piece. Everything is on joke. I'll put my mat. I lie down. Pray for Cameroon. You are there 12 hours. When you finish prayer point finish, you must remember for day. You start thinking story there for your head. But you know if you woke up because a commandment. If you have not known this part of God, you are not ready to be anointed. You are not yet ready. You are still choking. You want a bonbon alcoholize God. You are not ready. That's why you can't enter the glory of God in your marriage, because you are not ready. What will you do as a husband if God tell you don't touch your wife for 6 months? What will you do? I'm telling you the truth. A program is coming. God will tell me, my prophet, yes, Lord, for the next 7 days, don't eat any food cooked. So I have to live on fruits. I've done it so much that I don't have appetite for food again. That's how life is now. After 4 years, after 6 years, God permitted me to eat only chicken, and it must be fried. I don't eat any other meat on earth. Cow meat, no. It must be chicken and it's fried. Chicken and one fish, which now he has asked me not to eat it again. You want to be a prophet. Become a prophet in the name of Jesus. Because all you think is maybe the way we dress. Let me remove my dress so you can see my knees. That is from the ass you kneel down to pray. I want to show you my elbows where you kneel down like that. You don't know what you're talking about. You want to do business with God? If you want to do his will, be ready to sacrifice. I don't care what I will lose physically to gain spiritually. Nobody follows this God and ends up poor. It does not happen. Nobody follows this God and ends up sick or ends up a failure. It can't happen. If your mindset is to do his will, no matter the problem, I swear, God will deliver you. I didn't grow up in this town. No. If I had to choose where to start ministry, it will never be Kumba. Never. I grew up in Yaoundé, Douala. Kumba is like a village compared to those cities. I'll choose those places. But God said, go to Kumba. Many times I came here, I tried to leave. Until one day the Lord appeared to me and said, stay here. I said, in 2012, I finally agreed to stay. I said, okay, Lord, I agree. 10 years later, I don't regret it. I don't regret it. Okay, you are clapping now. You will not where you will never have known me. Just look at the role I have played in your life. All those who have been healed of cancers, HIV, they will have not been healed because a man missed God's will. When you miss the will of God, the consequence falls on you and your generation. Be careful. Because of one man's mistake, many people can fall away. You have from tonight to go on your knees before God and say, Lord, finally, I am here. I am ready. Let us start. Stop joking with God. You can enter a covenant with God. Father, I want to serve you. But Lord, let no one be sick in my family. As long as his will, God will say, yeah. God will answer very fast. You say, yes, yes, I agree. Nobody will be sick. He will now commit himself to the terms of the agreement because he sees that you have sacrificed yourself for his will. I will not be moving about doing crusade and my wife is getting sick. If sickness come today, it leaves the same day. Why? I say, Lord, this is not our agreement. Let nothing happen in my family that will make me to cry. Because it is done. So there is no fear for that. It's time to do business with God. Go back and kneel down and say, Father, I submit. I surrender. What do you want? The reason why God does not talk to you is because he has seen your heart that you are not determined to do his will. So God will never talk to you. When you submit and say, Father, I've been joking, but Lord, I want to follow you. This one is you and God. It's not in church. It's in your house or your room or a secret place. Lord, here am I. I am here to do your will. He will now start in dreams, showing you revelations, speaking to you, and you will know. God has no business revealing his will to a man that's not prepared to do it. Don't envy men whom you see shining because you don't know the process how they got there. You don't know. You don't know. I don't want to tell you some things so that it should not frighten you, but you don't know. You don't know how many times we have prayed in tears. You must keep praying. There are times I come to church and I am in pain because fasting. Next thing you hear gastric, and gastric is painful. Or come Sunday morning, the doctor will come and put me injection to kill pain. I will still come and stand here and preach because it's the will of God. This is not for children. You must become mature. You want to walk in the glory? You must do his will. Stop jumping around. That's why some of you ladies are not married. You want to look for a husband by yourself. Submit to his will and see how the man will come himself. Because it is God's own responsibility to provide for his children. If you are his child, he provides a husband for you. I never prayed for a wife. I was in the will of God. My wife came and met me there. She too was not praying for marriage. We met both of us in the will of God. That's how it happens. All these things you are looking for, seek not what you shall eat, seek not what you shall wear, but seek ye first the kingdom of God. Why? Thy kingdom come, thy will be done. Stand on your feet.